Okay, so we're gonna do it. After years of requests, I'm doing a flute tutorial. It's gonna be 10 episodes and it's designed to give an introduction and an overview to the flute. This tutorial will not replace flute lessons, but it is meant to give people that are interested in flute a jumping off point. And if you like it enough, then I totally advise you to get local lessons in your area from a teacher that can help you work on your technique one-on-one. So with that being said, my goal with this series is to have a fast introduction with less rambling, which I feel like a lot of other tutorials have. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put either on one of these sides, I'm gonna put a list of time codes and topics so you can jump around if you already know some of the stuff, or if you don't know it all, then just sit through and buckle up and we're gonna learn flute together. First part, you obviously need to have a flute of some sort, so buying a flute. A lot of the times for middle school, high school, they tell the parents to go to a local music store and spend $600 to $800 on a new student flute. I do not think this is necessary in most situations, mainly because we have the beautiful website Craigslist that has a lot of very cheap used instruments that are in great condition most of the time. My go-to instrument, like a Meinhardt 2 SP flute, it's a student flute that I've had since I was in 5th grade, and I still play on it today at gigs and weddings and pit orchestras, and it sounds great. And you know what it costs? It costs $100 to $150 depending on who's getting rid of it. I've even seen it go for about $50 online. A word of warning though, I mean, again, you're buying a used instrument, you don't know the condition, but normally there are a number of flutes on the market, so if you can establish a rapport with the seller, or you can bring someone with that knows about flute, they can test play it. And even if the flute isn't in super great condition or has a few leaks, if it doesn't need pad replacement, oftentimes the repair was only going to be $30 to maybe $50. You're going to get a very functional instrument for around $150 to $200 in most cases. Now let's talk about taking it out of the case and being safe with it. So an average student flute case is pretty simple. You just undo the two latches here and pull it open. A quick overview, so this is called the head joint, this is the body, and this is usually the foot or the tail piece. When you take the flute and put it together, you want to avoid touching the keys as much as possible. So what I usually do is I usually take it from both ends here, and then I will pick it up from the kind of inner hole here and try to handle it without touching any of the keys. And a lot of the times what people do when they first are putting the flute together, they'll put these keys to line up. You do not want that. You want this kind of, this bar here to be right in the middle of that pad, and we'll talk about why we're doing that later. Slide your head joint right in, and then with the head joint, what you want to do is you want this hole to about line up with this first key right here, so it's all one straight line. So just when you thought we were going to start playing notes, wrong! Take apart your flute, because we're going to work on airflow and blowing and embouchure. There's three components that determine where you are on the flute. First is embouchure, which is the shape of your mouth when it is making airflow. The second is the speed of the air into the instrument. And then the third is the temperature of the air. I like to think of it that way. For the lowest end of the flute, it requires slower, warmer air. The middle range of the flute requires kind of a mix between medium speed and medium temperature, and then the highest end of the flute generally requires an increasingly cold and faster airflow. And here's some examples. Now that we went over airflow, I want you to grab your head joint of your instrument, and we're going to go over the mouth shape and the general embouchure for the instrument. Just a quick warning, this is one of the hardest parts about the instrument for beginning flutists, and it's usually the biggest barrier. If you don't get it at first, do not give up. My advice is stick with it, try to practice as much as possible, and also if you have the resources, if you know someone that is a flute teacher or that has played flute for a long time in your area, it's always helpful to have them look at your mouth shape and help you see what you're doing wrong in real time, because a lot of the time those adjustments can really solve embouchure issues. Well, I guess we're getting a little close and personal for this part. The flute head joint, it's the same idea essentially as if you've ever blown into a bottle. Bring it up to your mouth, kind of split your lower lip right at the lower, kind of the lower half right there, and kind of rest that on the lip of the bottle. A lot of what people want to do first is they want to do this thing, which is make a very tight circle with their mouth and blow fast and across. And you do not want to do that because that's just not chill. And we want to be chill flutists here. We're like the cool flutists. You want to essentially split your airstream across this other opposite lip. So half the air is going across there and half of the air is going down into the bottle. And that's what makes that beautiful Dasani tone. If Dasani wants to sponsor me, please sponsor me. You start with your, ovular shape, then kind of bring your corners of your mouth back to kind of this shape right here. But you don't want to stress it too much. I always hate saying, smile. Some people say smile, but it's not really a smile. It's kind of just a relaxed kind of bringing of the side of the mouth. So start here and then relax. And this is the general shape that you want to have. And I could be a ventriloquist with this. And just kind of breathe in a nice big breath and then just let out some very slow, warm air. My suggested exercise now, before you move on to the rest of the video, is I want you to be able to do one long breath on the bottle and then 4 short breaths. I literally can't count to save my life. Once you feel pretty comfortable with the sound production of the bottle, now it's time for us to grab our wonderful little head joint here. So the head joint is the same idea as the bottle. It's an opening where you're blowing the air across, but also a little bit in. And this end of the lip plate will split the air. The air that goes into the flute starts swirling around, and that's how you actually get the sound out of the instrument. For this part of the tutorial, what you want to do is you want to take your hand and cover the very end of the head joint here, because we're going to work on the lower sound of the head joint. So this part is all about finding where that perfect comfort zone is on the lip plate. Here's an example of what it is. So it's the same idea as the bottle, but the tough thing, there's less of a rim, it's very flat. So it's hard to always find that exact part on the lip plate. Take it and then rotate it out slightly and see where you can start to make that sound. It's the same exercise as the bottle exercise, but I'm gonna actually count correctly this time. So you do 1 long breath and then 4 shorter breaths. Once you're able to do that, then we can move on to the next part of the lesson. So now that you got your flute assembled, we gotta learn how to hold it, because you can't just do this and... But actually, I can play the flute upside down. Your resting position for the instrument is the left hand. It'll cradle on this first finger here, and then on this side, usually your thumb is holding it up down here. This kind of forefinger is kind of crabbing it out. It's kind of doing a little crab guy there. And then occasionally your pinky will counteract with the weight here. But generally, you got 3 points of contact, and that is cradled here, a little kind of crab guy down here. When you hold it, a lot of people think that you hold it straight out like this. And that's actually not how you hold flute. The reason why a lot of people think that is because marching bands will have the flutist play straight because it looks better in the audience. What you should do when you're holding flute is generally hold the flute horizontal, but hold it where you feel comfortable. For me, this feels comfortable, where it's kind of a little slanting down, but I'm not down here, and I'm not up here, and I'm not like this. This feels comfortable to me. Your comfort matters a lot more than getting a stress injury because you feel like you have to do this. And then your arms tire out, and that's dumb because you want to be able to play flute for hours and hours on end, because what is more fun than playing flute all day? The thumb will operate these 2 keys. Up on here, it's scary, there's a lot of keys, I get it. Your first finger goes on that one. Your second finger skips a key, So it's not right next to it, but it's the next one. So it's, you got key, finger, and then your third finger goes down here, right here. And then your pinky, this guy usually just kind of hangs out and chills until we need to use him for this A flat key right here. That's the left hand. And then the right hand, you go to this first key here right after this kind of little, this little bendy guy. I know I've got some great terms here. I'm just explaining it like an unintelligent person that plays flute. Your first finger on your right hand goes right here, and this guy, second finger between the two trill keys, and then third finger on this one right here. And it seems scary, but your last little pinky is going to actually operate all of these down here. But we'll get to that in a second. Thumb, 1, 2, 3. Pinky does this guy, and then 1, 2, 3. All the pinkies do these. So now it's time to start playing your first notes. Get your nice little flute hold, and then bring it to your mouth. The first note that we want to play is called C, and that's in the middle of the staff, and that will require you just pressing this first plated button here. And what that does is that plate will trigger this smaller little key to close. And so this is no keys, and this is just with the first key to make C. So a nice little exercise is just doing the Jaws theme. The next note we're going to learn is B, which is just 1 half step below C. C with that first plate. B is now going to be, your thumb will trigger this lower button right here. Not the double, but just this first one. So starting with 0, 1, thumb. Next note is A. It's pretty similar, so now you got your 2 down, your first finger and your thumb. A is just now your second finger on your left hand goes down and skips that one key. Remember, we skipped that guy, and this comes down. So C, B, A. And finally, the last note we're going to learn in today's lesson is G. And that is kind of in the same order. Your third finger is going to go on this key right here. Now we're going to use the notes that we just learned to play a few different melodies. So the first exercise I want you to do is do 2 of each note descending, starting on C. Now go back to C, working from G. In this exercise, we're going to jump across notes. So we're going to do C to A, and then B to G. And B to G. And now I've sneakily prepared you to play your first song that you can play for your friends or your parents or just alone in your room, like most people are watching this. Congratulations! You made it to the end of episode 1. As you probably noticed, I crammed a ton of information into this episode. I mean for this episode to be a resource that you should come back to and review. One of the big things is working with a bottle or with just your head joint. Try to do it at least 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day, just trying to breathe into it and making a good sound. You know you're doing a good job when you're able to get your lips to it and just breathe straight and make a sound immediately. And the better you get at the instrument and the more comfortable you get with your embouchure and with your breathing, you'll be able to make a fuller, richer sound more quickly rather than having like an airiness that you have to find the sound. You can just get it. And finally, I just want to state, because it cannot be said enough, if you have the funds available to take a lesson, please take flute lessons, because I can teach you only so much through a camera. I can't fix technique. I'm just a working gigging flutist that makes dumb videos on YouTube. If money is an issue, which I know for a lot of us it is, especially if you're younger or just starting out with a job or don't have a lot of extra income, many teachers will work with you to do one lesson a month or one lesson every 6 weeks, one lesson every 8 weeks, and even they will do half-hour lessons with you. If the teacher will work with you doing that, you can have them help you fix your embouchure issues and some basic issues that I can't reach through the camera and fix. Let me know what you like and what you didn't like about this episode. Please leave a like and a subscribe. Tell me what you want to see in future episodes. I've got 10 episodes to fill, or 9 now, so I'm open to taking comment feedback because I make these about once a month or once every 6 weeks. I can actually tailor the series to what people want to see. Finally, there will be exercises in future episodes that will be Patreon only, so please consider becoming a Patreon supporter to get access to sheet music, backing tracks, and full MP3s to my other videos, as well as some of these exercises for this flute series and potentially future instrument series. That being said, thank you for watching. I am InstrumentManiac/LukePickman, and I will see you on the next Flute Lessons with Luke episode. Bye.